You definitely have the personality type for that. I can see that. Yeah, really great. Okay, so um, first question is, can you tell us the name of your business, what you do, and who you service?
Yes, ma'am. So, my name is John Lefevers, and I own Good Old Boys Packing and Moving. We're a full-service packing and moving company that services the entire state of Texas. But we mostly do local moves, as that's where you're going to get the best value from us. That's where we really provide that good economic value for people, is in the local moves. A few other ancillary services we offer is junk haul off, furniture delivery, one-shot furniture assembly, one-shot deliveries of items, anything really in that general labor category that doesn't require, as long as it's picking it up and putting it back down, then we can handle basically anything in that space for a reasonable price.
Perfect. Yeah. So, what was the main reason why you chose this industry to get into?
So this is actually not my first attempt at a moving company. This is my third attempt. My first two were when I was much younger, about a decade ago, and didn't have nearly all the knowledge and experience I have now. Moving in particular has always been something I gravitated towards because the overhead and the capital requirements to start a moving company are so low. You're paying labor, but only when you're doing jobs. You're renting trucks, doing jobs. You don't need an office. You don't need retail space. You don't need a warehouse. So a lot of those overhead costs that most businesses have to pay as part of the cost of doing business, moving companies don't necessarily require that. And as somebody who's always been very hesitant to take on debt, when I was initially planning the structure of the business and what we wanted to do, was how can we achieve the most growth and value for a business while having the least amount of capital investment? Because we know that's always going to be difficult for us. And we settled on moving because it's just the business model for it is so easy to get going with so little money.
Gotcha. So do you have a business partner or do you co-own this with someone?
Yes, ma'am. My best friend, William Pritchard, he owns the business with me. We're equal partners. I do the stuff like this, the sales, the admin, the all of the back end stuff, and he handles operations. He's the one actually going out in there, making sure the customers are taken care of, training the guys to make sure they know how to do everything. He handles that entire side of the business.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, how long has it been since you guys started this entire business?
This business was opened in February of 2023, so we're just about a year and a half old now. Gotten over the first big hump, approaching the next one. So
Gotcha. Okay. So with that, are there some challenges or obstacles you guys had to overcome? What are those and how'd you guys do it?
So luckily, finding jobs, which I was expecting that to be the most difficult obstacle. With my previous experience with our networks that we'd built up over the years, it was actually fairly easy to keep jobs coming in, keep work for the guys. The biggest problem we've encountered is finding people. We pay above average for the industry. We start everyone in the company at $20 an hour, but we need people that are going to be of a higher caliber than most. We're not a white glove moving service, but if you don't care about what you do, you're going to break the customer's stuff. You're going to rush. You're going to be lazy, and that isn't what our business model is. We're not a quantity business. We're a quality business. I don't spend any money on advertising. So having the quality of people that are going to do a good enough job that my customers then refer us more business, that's important. And finding enough people of those calibers has probably been our biggest struggle.
Okay.
It's our biggest impediment to growth. But what we realized is that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you need to measure your growth so you don't get too big too fast, so you're not able to handle it. So we've kind of turned something that has been a hindrance to us into a way to sustainably grow the company.
Okay.
So the lack of availability of having tons of people means that I can't go out and schedule a ton. So we grow in a lot more sustainable fashion.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So here's an idea. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be open with it. What are your thoughts on, other than paying them the hourly rate or however you pay them, you incentivize them for each item that doesn't get damaged. So let's just say for 100 items, if you can give them a bonus, a small bonus, so they don't actually bang up the stuff? Like, have you guys like thought about something like that?
So we thought about different ways to incentivize the employees to do better. And what we ultimately decided was no.
Mhm.
By incentivizing them to do their job the way we need it done,
Yeah.
that's creating that distinction where they, barring the incentive, may not want to do their job the way that we want it done. And so we decided just to take the hard route, and instead of trying to juice it and get people to do their job, just pay them well and ask them to do their job the way that we need it done.
Gotcha. Okay, good. That's a really good response. Okay, so what's driving you to work? Kind of your why. What's your main motivator for your work?
Well, there's two. And the first one is the selfish and the obvious one. We all need to make a living, and being a business owner is one of the few reliable ways left to create the kind of life that we want for ourselves.
Mhm.
You know, we're not out here to become millionaires, but owning our own home, being able to do the things we want, take vacations, start families, that's important to us. So that's really the main reason why we did it. The reason everybody starts their business is to earn a living, to make money.
Mhm.
The second reason is, and a little bit of my optimism here comes out. It's the same reason I'm running for politics. I believe that those with the power to change society should be the ones going out there and doing the hard work to change society. By being a business owner, we are putting ourselves in a position where we can actively and tangibly change people's lives, right? Just take the $20 an hour thing. We don't have to do that, but by paying our people so well, we're providing them more of an opportunity to start their own families, to build their own wealth, to grow themselves into, at the very least, a middle income person who isn't surviving. They're
Mhm.
not living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
So that really was the bigger part of it for us. Besides making money, is there are so few ways that we as people can help our community, can change our community, can actually make a difference.
Yep.
And by being a good employer, that was one of the reasons that we decided to get into it, was to be
I
the
love
change we wanted to see.
I love that. So personally, like my dad actually owns a construction business. And ever since I was younger, I've always seen how generous he is to like people he's hired. And that has actually something that I take with me even to this day. And I love how you brought that up as well. Like you said that there is a certain like value that comes with the price that you pay someone, because of realistically they still have to live, they have bills to
Yeah,
pay, like you have a family to support. And so I truly respect that you guys like uphold that. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
well, our people are the most important. I am not the important one of the company. My Will is not the important one of the company. Without our team members, without our employees, like, we don't exist. They have to come first, even before the customer.
Hmm.
As long
Hmm.
as they come first and we come last, we've found that to be a business model that creates the exceptional level of service that we demand and we want to see in our business, in our industry.
Yeah. And I think that the best thing about being a leader is the ability to actually uplift other people. So you guys seem to be doing that, and blessings turn around, kind of just blessings all
Absolutely.
around. So 100%. I love that. I love that. Okay. So some questions, like if there's someone in the crowd kind of figure out, oh, do I want to start this type of business? What is something that you would like tell them?
So the first thing that I would suggest that they do is take a sober look at the numbers. How much it's going to cost to get it started. What is your estimated revenue? Where are your customers going to come from? How much money are you going to need to have saved to pay the bills while you're getting up and running? That for me would be my biggest piece of advice, is
Mhm.
don't just jump into it. Make sure that you've done a sober assessment of what's realistically going to be required for that. If you're starting a retail business, you got to know how much inventory you're going to need to stock for your first day. So you need to have a realistic idea of what those costs are going to be, and that would be my biggest piece of advice for people.
Gotcha.
Make sure
Great.
great. you're aware of the situation.
And you're ready, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
'Cause
everything else can be learned, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the
Mhm.
things I love about business is most of it can be learned. I didn't go to college. I didn't even finish high school. All of this has been stuff that I've taught myself through doing. And every but that's one of those things where you can't really teach yourself that. You have to know that beforehand. You know, sometimes you're going to need an expert to sit down with you and discuss the numbers and figure out what they are. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. So with that, when you guys were beginning your business, how did you market your business? How were you able to get those like first like clients to the door and build your reputation?
So our first 18 jobs were direct referrals from me, either companies I'd worked for before and built a foundation with, my friends. One of our first employees referred us a couple of jobs. So it was entirely based off of our networking done previously. The next thing we did was join a BNI chapter.
Okay. Gotcha.
Do you know what BNI is?
Yes.
Okay. I'm 31 years old. I've been in a BNI since I was 18.
Wow.
Literally as a teenager. BNI was foundational for me. And that's really the only other marketing thing we've done since.
Gotcha.
I have a social media guy. I pay him a couple $100 a month to post on our Facebook, but that's it. We don't do any other marketing. We've built this business entirely off of the power of referrals.
Okay. Yeah, that's so funny. You said you didn't go to high school, but you spent on BNI. Honestly, well spent. I would actually like go back and do that as well. I feel like anything I learned in college and high school, I don't even use. So
Yeah. Well, it's
yeah,
actually a really funny story if you got a second for it.
yeah, of
So
course. Yeah.
my dad owned a small retail store, and I was, a teenager that was doing teenager things, and I was employed there, and I felt that he wasn't giving me enough responsibility. I was entirely incorrect. He was just absolutely treating me the way he should have, but I thought that he wasn't doing enough. So I went behind his back and joined a BNI chapter for his business with my own money and didn't tell him. And then 6
Oh,
months later, as he's trying to figure out where all these referrals are coming from, he goes, I keep getting these referrals from BNI, but these aren't my BNI referrals. And that's when I was like, hey, that's because I've been in a chapter the last 6 months. So
oh, how did he react? I'm so curious.
he was disappointed that I hadn't told
Oh,
him that
interesting.
he didn't think that he was disappointed that I didn't trust him enough to bring it
Okay.
to him because he thought that I wouldn't be allowed, or I thought that I wouldn't be allowed to do it, or he wouldn't let me do it, But
Gotcha.
he was like, "This is great. That's awesome. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad you're learning. Thank you for representing our business." It was awesome.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, it's just different when your dad says that. Honestly, the same with my dad. Like recently, he's given me that type of praise. I'm like, that means the world. You have no idea. Like,
It really does.
yeah, it really does. Okay, so do you know a couple of your competitors and have you kind of looked into it? Like, how can you beat them and how can you bring a better service than your competitor?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is part of what that piece of advice.
Okay.
We have 82 direct competitors. Those are licensed companies that are insured. That's what I consider to be direct competitors. We have over 100 indirect competitors, which are,
Yeah.
the two brothers that just move some stuff on the weekends. So I knew exactly roughly how many competitors we were going to have. I knew roughly how many move jobs were done in San Antonio every year. So we had an idea right from the get-go of the math of it. Then I went a step further and I called basically every single one of those companies and asked for a quote. So I could figure out
Wow.
exactly what they were charging. And after I knew what that range of prices were going to be, with this being the lowest and this being the highest, then I did even more math and I figured out what we could charge while still making the amount of money that we needed to make. And then once I knew that, I could choose where on that spectrum that we wanted to be. We're right at the 40th percentile. 40% of providers are cheaper than us. 60% of providers are more expensive than us.
Okay.
So that was right in that sweet spot where we wanted to be. We're not cheap. We're definitely not the cheapest out there,
Yeah.
but we're not the most expensive by a long shot. And for the level of service that we provide, we wanted to fit comfortably right into that affordability niche where people can access the service.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, amazing. So, other than the price, did you think about what you were going to offer for that price to set yourself apart? Have you guys like thought about bundles or packages you do?
Mhm.
That
All
sense?
of that was, if you can't tell, I do a lot of research and prep
Oh
for stuff.
yeah,
But
100%.
all
I'm the
of that
same
was
way.
built in. We knew what we were going to charge for the trucks. We knew what the various services were going to cost. We knew how we were going to sell those services before we even started. That's part of that prep work that came into it. Is then you're not developing those things on the fly. You're iterating, you're changing them to fit the need, but you already know where you want to be. And once you have that solid mathematical basis for your business, it becomes a lot easier to change things to fit
Yep.
your needs rather than building them from nothing.
Yeah, 100%. Because I remember reading something from Alex Hormozy, and he talked about how if someone treats your services as a commodity, meaning they think your service is the same as your competitor, then price is going to be the issue. But if you offer a service that no one offers at all, then there's really no value they can compare it to. They're like,
Exactly.
no, this doesn't exist, you know. This is okay. That's very interesting. So, how do you think the landscape now for business has changed over the last 10 or 20 years?
So, and this is going to sound strange, but I think the most impactful change on the business landscape in general was the coronavirus, the pandemic. So many people were stuck at home and started their own business because they didn't have anything else to do. They couldn't go out and work, they were bored. And I think that alone showed so many people that they could do this, that then when the pandemic ended, they didn't go back to work. They kept building their small businesses. Now, if we're going to talk about macroeconomic trends, we probably don't have time for that. But as far as the local community goes and small businesses go,
Yeah.
I think the rate of business formation has gone up expeditiously. And while it hasn't become any harder or easier to start a business, I think the cultural zeitgeist at the moment with the hustle culture and the grind culture is one where it becomes a lot easier for people to make that step. You know, you're seeing influencers that talk about starting a business that's now part of the regular conversation for teenagers, for for everyday people. And when that happened, I think that was the most impactful change. And that's the biggest thing that's changed in the last 15, 20 years.
100%. I definitely see that a lot more people have started their business. Also, a lot more people are on their phones. I feel like all we did during the coronavirus was scroll on our phones, and we never got out of it.
Nope.
Just constantly on the real game. Yeah, so I 100% agree. So interesting because someone else actually brought up the same point. They said, yeah, the coronavirus was probably what changed the landscape. This was that cleaning company. Basically, they started their business 20 years ago, and all they did was pass flyers, and they posted flyers on like walls where you have this like coupon with numbers. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so they've done that, and they said like we've landed so much business off of that. But then suddenly after the coronavirus, everything got so much more competitive. Like people are looking to online or other channels now. And so she said like that has been a slight game changer. But for her, networking and referrals has been the stronghold of her own business as well. Because she's built the relationships and all that, she has a very like good sustaining business. So yeah, very, very interesting point with that. Okay, so was there an advice that you've received from someone that has totally changed your perspective? That's something that you actually like practice today?
Well, first off, the easy answer to that is Giver's Game from BNI. That
I love
that
that.
concept not only informed how I run my business and how I treat people, but because it's so intrinsic to BNI, that is BNI, and I got involved with BNI when I was so young.
Yeah.
That concept actually has become pretty foundational for my life as a whole. Give to others in order to get. You know, it's not just business. That applies to everything.
Giver skin.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
But the second most important piece of advice I think I got is after my first business failed, my dad sat me down and he said, "Son, you just failed. And that was the most important thing you could have done." And I was
Wow.
like, "What?" And he said, "You're not going to learn that anywhere else. Failure is the only way to learn some lessons." fail fast, fail often. And I'm quoting, I think it's Mark Zuckerberg there, but that was basically the point. Fail, 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 and get better as you're failing. Don't be afraid of failure, because failure is what's going to teach you the most. And that's why I'm like, okay. And not necessarily becoming a risk taker, but I no longer was afraid of things not coming to fruition or being the way that I wanted them to be, because he was right.
Wow. I love that. Yeah, that actually reminded me of my mentor. He basically said, I'm where I'm at today, not because I'm better than you, but because I failed more times than you, and I had the grits to actually fail more times than you.
That's
and
exactly
keep trying again and again, over and over. Wow, I love
Bang your
that.
head against the wall until the wall breaks, right?
Yeah,
That's what you have to do.
100%. Okay, so what's your vision for the next 6 to 12 months? Like, how are you gonna take your business from now to a year from now?
Well, here's a boring answer for you. Slow growth.
Okay.
One of the lessons I learned in failing was, if you cannot keep pace with the growth that you go out and sell, you fail. The company dies. You're not meeting expectations. You're scrambling to get things done. Everything is being run on shortcuts because you're trying to service more than you can handle. So we don't really have any other plans. Our growth chart looks like that, and I don't want it to be anywhere else. I don't want it going down, but that would be catastrophic for us.
Gotcha.
So we're going to keep doing the same things we're doing, build those networks, keep, just doing a good job. Because the way that I see it and the way that I explain the math to people is, I do a job for a customer. If I do a good enough job, they're going to tell their friends and their family and their customers about it. But that's going to happen in the future. But the more good jobs you do, the vaster that network of future jobs is going to be. So even without doing anything else, just by going and completing jobs, we are growing, because that's adding to the list of people in the future that are going to call us when they need our services.
Gotcha. 100%. And that's definitely the way to grow, I would say. I have also talked to another person yesterday. He does roofing, and he's also involved in a lot of BNI as well. And he said that is what built his business, was knowing the right people, not just people, the right people that can connect you to your clients. So I think that's very powerful. So I was actually curious when you said that you've tried 2 other businesses in the past. Can you share, if you're comfortable, what are the reasons why it failed, and what are some important lessons you've learned from that failure?
So my first business, my dad set up an interview with me to go get us a job as a server. He always felt that was important. I walked away from that interview owning half of the bar.
Wow.
I was 20 years old, about to turn 21. I couldn't even enter my own establishment. So my first business was a jazz bar. That failed because 21-year-olds should not be allowed to own liquor establishments.
Oh, yeah.
If you can imagine what you think happened, that's what happened.
Oh no.
So I learned a lot about business and the basics of it, but there weren't really a ton of important lessons to take there, other than, if you want to be successful, you can't be drunk all the time. You have to be sober. If you're going to drink after work. But if you ever want to make it anywhere, don't drink before work, don't drink during work. You have to be sober to be able to make the right decisions and grow your business. That's what I took away from that. My second business was Good Old Boys Number One. The problem with that was I had set it up purely as a junk haul-off company.
Okay.
I didn't do packing, I didn't do moving, I didn't do any of other ancillary services. And I found that by backing myself into that corner, by not allowing the possibility of doing other things, I had cut off any abilities for growth. When that work slowed down, I didn't have anything to make up for it. Like now, we're in the middle of moving season. This is the 3 months during the year when we're going to get the most volume of jobs, bar none.
Yep.
We're employing a lot of people. They're getting 40 hours a week right now, but in I'm so sorry. My dog's out here with me.
Oh, no worries.
But because we have stuff to do besides moving when that season is over, I'm still
Right.
going to be able to retain guys on staff. I'm still going to have work for them. I'm not going to lose a whole bunch of people that I then have to replace next year. So by diversifying, I've made the business more sustainable, and I've allowed us to keep employees in a way that we previously weren't able to. So that was the biggest lesson I took away from there is make sure
Gotcha.
you back yourself into a corner, leave all the options open for you as long as you can reasonably do it. I'm not saying that the painter should be your yard guy,
I was kidding.
but as long as it's in the same space, as long as it's the same industry, as long as your insurance doesn't have to change to cover a different service, then you should really be doing everything in those services. Hold on 1 second. Hammurabi,
No worries.
you were too loud.
Oh.
Sorry about that, ma'am. I know the audio quality isn't great as it is, so I don't need him barking in the back.
No, it's actually great. I can hear you perfectly clear. So it's good. Yeah. That's really good. So I actually wanted to ask, is this a seasonal business then, what you do for junk shot and moving? It's not.
Nope. We are year round. I don't do anything else.
Gotcha.
We jumped so far off the deep end. So I was about to buy a house before all of this started. But when Will and I decided to partner together, we're like, you know what? We're gonna save costs. We're gonna move in together. We're not gonna have other jobs. We are just gonna so fully jump off the end that we're gonna hope that we can make this happen, pay our rent, eat, and this is all we're gonna do. So no, we built it as a business that's gonna work year round.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I love that. I absolutely love that. So you mentioned hiring in the past as well. Can you just give us a little bit of nuggets how you find the best talent for your team? Because you mentioned that was kind of the issue, was some of the guys were not doing the work. Were you able to resolve that part? of your
So
business?
one thing that's made that a lot easier for us is we don't actually have any employees. We legitimately,
Oh,
and I checked the box, the 43 things that you have to look at, but all of our people are 1099 contractors.
okay. Okay. That makes sense.
That makes it a lot easier because then when you have a bad actor, when you have somebody that isn't working up to standard, if you can't get them to correct it, you just don't schedule them anymore. And it becomes a lot easier to dismiss people and not have them in your company than actually employing them. So I know
Gotcha.
it's kind of shisty, but if you are doing it in an upfront, honest way, it's actually not. But I think that one of the things I've learned in this iteration of the business is sometimes you just got to give people chances. You know, trolling Facebook, looking for hiring ads, talking to friends, talking to referrals. You know, Indeed, sometimes you just need to get somebody in the door and try them out because you never know what that person's going to be able to accomplish until you give them a chance.
Yeah.
So we've had a ton of people that have worked for us one day and they're like, nope, this is not for me. Or we're like, nope, you're not for us. But we wouldn't have ever known that if we hadn't let them in for a chance to earn the position.
Right. Okay. So you said you asked for referrals, but where do you find these people that do 1099 contractors and kind of people you can hire? Where everywhere?
Facebook is great. All the Ask a Local groups, we're in a ton of those. That's great for any business. Every business should be in all of the Ask a Local groups, all the neighborhood groups, all of that. But
Okay.
really, it's just about leaning on the resources you have. You know,
Yeah.
all of my friends know if they ever meet someone in their life needing a job, send them my way. My family knows that. My BNI chapter knows that. My customers know that. One of the best guys that we ever hired was a guy that we moved. And he was like, wow, I am so impressed with this. And we're like, awesome, we need more people. You want a job? So you're going to find employees everywhere. There isn't any silver bullet I've found. You just got to be open and you got to be willing to put in the work to find people.
Gotcha. 100%. Okay. So most of your business has been referrals, word of mouth, all that. Have you tried any of like the lead generation services, or you kind of just like stay away from that?
I've done a lot of that before. I've done a lot of advertising before. I've even bought a billboard before. I've never gotten any reasonable return on investment on advertising. What I've come to realize
Okay.
is advertising works, but it works on the margins. So if you get 10,000 eyes on a billboard, you might get a call out of it. So advertising doesn't really work for businesses of my size, because to get those marginal returns, you have to spend more money than you can reasonably afford. I've just never had much luck with it. That might be a personal bias. Again, I might be wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. That happens quite often. But on the flip side of that, we were talking about the sustainable growth earlier. If I go out and I stomp my foot on the accelerator and just get a whole bunch of jobs, we aren't prepared to get those. If I hire a lead generator and they do an amazing job, I don't have the infrastructure to support those jobs. So I particularly have to be really careful in going out and getting more work and hiring and doing advertising, because if it's successful, we may not be prepared for the amount of work that's coming in. And really what I want to do as an effort to save cost is fully exhaust the referrals network first. We're growing, we're hiring more people, we're on that upward track of growth. Why spend money if you're already growing at the pace that you want to be?
Gotcha.
5 years from now, it's probably going to be different. I'm probably going to have salespeople. I'm probably going to be using lead generation. But right now, if you don't have to spend the money to do a good job, then don't.
Yeah, 100%. So my question then is, if there's a way for billboards to be a lot more like intent, is that something that you would do? For example, what if you can put like a billboard in front of people that are looking for you? Like, let's just say there's 100 people and then they see your billboard. Is that something that you would do?
So for me specifically, the thing about billboards is when you're driving by, you have 1 to 5 seconds to read it, understand it, and care about it. People don't care about moving unless they're moving.
Yes.
So 99% of the people that even would see a billboard are not even going to read it because they're not moving. They don't care. The one person that is driving by and is moving and happens to be able to read it, are they going to catch the name? Are they going to get the number down? Do they care enough about a billboard to call? And that's where that bias against advertising has come in for me.
I get it.
I understand how it should work, but the fact that it doesn't ever really produce those results.
Yes. So with my time kind of like talking to people, I've heard some things about like billboards. Have you heard of the term like online billboards or online real estate, and how like your website can be a billboard? That can be shown actually to people looking for your service. Something I've heard. Yeah. So that's kind of like how that's translated right now in the advertising space. And that's something that I've learned from like talking to people and talking to people like who do marketing as well, is that if you're able to show your billboard to people looking for you right now, then that's the most powerful thing. Like you've mentioned, networking events are great, but it could be bring you business tomorrow or 3 months or 6 months from now. But that's kind of the power of a different side of marketing.
Oh, absolutely. And when we're talking about online, like that's entirely separate, right? If people see, because of the algorithms and the way that Google searches work and people actively searching for it, if they see a billboard for moving, an advert for building, one of those clicker ads for us, it's because the computer is identifying that. The algorithm is saying this ad should go to this people. So you can target it a lot more effectively online than you ever could in the real world, just because of the way that our data is tracked and used by, honestly, really smart people and really smart companies that are figuring out how to get the eyes on that need to be on.
Yeah, it's actually wild. And I even have or talk to some people, and what they do is they come up with, they call it digital real estate. They create a website, they rank it based on the service that they're portraying on the website, and then they actually sell those leads to a company that does the work. So it's kind of like a partnership that they've done. And I think that was like very interesting. I was like, real estate but online? I'm like, I've never heard of that. Yeah, but that's essentially like what I've learned from working with people like that. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I've never heard of it, but it totally makes sense. And that's
Yeah,
why
absolutely.
people are willing to pay Google so much money to be on the first spot with Google ads because of the eyes. Like you've mentioned, it's like a billboard on the highway where people are just like passing, but it's not just random people passing. It's people actually looking for you. And they're like,
Yeah.
hey, here I am.
Moving company near me. Oh, hey, look, there's several moving companies near me right there in front of my eyes.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
human
Yes.
nature.
It's placement. Yep. 100%. Okay. Yes. So this was a really productive talk. Do you have any other questions or last things that you wanted to add to your article?
Be brave. That's what I want people to know. This isn't impossible. It is one of the hardest things in the world to do, but it's not impossible. And the rewards, even not being super successful, even before you're super successful, the freedom in being the one to make those decisions, in living your life the way you want to, in building the business that you want to. Be brave. Take the plunge. It's worth it.
I love that. Okay. Yeah, I will end that like interview here and I'll cut the video and all that. But I was actually just very curious with that conversation that we had. Would it be helpful for you if I kind of send you a video of what online real estate is, kind of talking about
Oh,
that? Would you like to learn about
absolutely.
that? Okay.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I might have
Yeah.
a bias against advertising, but when you stop wanting to learn new things and encounter new ideas, that's a route to failure.
I 100% respect that. Like, for sure. For me, I just want to give value with things that I've learned.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so I'd be more than happy to kind of film a video, kind of like display what that would look like. Even actually pull up some of your competitors. Who's your competitor? You said you had 82.
Um,
Your biggest one?
our biggest competitor is going to be one of the super majors, two men in a truck, 3 men movers. If you ever see a TV advertisement for somebody, those are always going to be our biggest competitors because those are the people that have the marketing budget to spend millions. They're just so well.
You know what's funny about that? I've been reading a lot of books about this too, and there's so much more power and leverage if you're a local business. I
Yeah.
feel like ever since COVID happened, like you've mentioned, people are so much more inclined to actually support local small businesses, and they actually don't care much about the big guy. And it makes sense because as humans, I feel like we want to feel valuable, and we're more than just a number if we're actually giving our money to someone who appreciates it versus if it's a big like major corporation that it's like, oh yeah, you're just a sale.
You know what?
But
I will actually agree with you. I that is 100% correct. So probably 70% of our business that we get directly is from those Ask a Local groups on Facebook. There's one in particular called MESO, Moms Around Stone Oak. We've gotten 83 jobs from that one Facebook group. Because,
wow.
like, it's this group of 16,000 women that are around the Stone Oak area. And they're like, hey, who's the movers? And it's just, these are the people you should use. And because they're in that group, it's taken as a trusted referral. And Facebook is, oh my God, it's huge. And I never realized that it would be this big of a driver for us, but just going on it's sometimes as simple as I see somebody saying, hey, I need this service. And I go, hey, I'm John with Good Old Boys Packing and Moving. Feel free to give me a call at my number and have a great day. And, I get something as simple as the 5 minutes spent scrolling and then typing out that message brings work in for us. So
Well, that's online marketing right
it is.
there.
It really is.
You do it for free. No, I love that. I 100% love that. And especially in Texas, local businesses are always supported. So 100%. So you said 2 Men in a Truck is the name of the company, right? And 3 Men in
that's one of our biggest competitors. There's a lot. I can name a whole bunch of them if you like.
Yeah, I mean, if you can send me a list, actually, I'd love to. I'm curious. I'm actually curious with kind of like what they're doing and all that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put together a list of 10, 20 of my competitors, some on the lower end spectrum, some on the higher end spectrum, and you can do with that information what you want.
yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time again, John. I will get to work with the article. So it's right now it's going to take us around 2 to 3 weeks to kind of find a news site and kind of post it. Because we're kind of like, we have back-to-back interviews, so we want to make sure we put the accurate information in each article, and you
Well,
actually
absolutely. You guys
so
are doing your due diligence.
yeah, you've shared so much information that I think a lot of people can learn from. So I really, really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Yep.
Awesome. Well, the only thing I will ask is if because I don't know if I recorded this, but I would love to have a copy of our chat. Just
Oh,
so
yes, of course. I'll just cut out like some of the stuff at the end and I'll send it to you. I'll also be posting it in the Facebook group if you don't mind as well. Yeah.
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Nyandra, it's been an absolute pleasure. You have a wonderful rest of your day as well.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.